All right, hey guys, welcome to another Ubase Live. I know it's been a while since the last one, but I thought I'd come on here and we could just play through some things, just kind of jam on some stuff, talk about some things that are coming up, and just if I can answer any questions for you guys, or if there are any requests that you'd like. I'm mostly just going to be doing like the baseline of requests because I don't have the loop pedal plugged in at the moment. But let me know if there's something that you want to hear or something you have a question about, and we'll just go ahead and get started. I'll play a song or two, and then when more people are on here, there'll be questions to answer, hopefully, and I'll be happy to get to your questions and requests. Okay. How's the audio so far? Awesome, just in time for your practice session. Well, if you have any questions, just let me know. It's good to see you on the stream. Hey, Steve. Hey, got 40. Thanks for telling me that the audio sounds good. I hope the video is okay, but I know that sometimes this webcam does better than others with YouTube. So, thanks, Linda. So I know I've been kind of absent for a little while, and so I'm just trying to kind of jump back into things. So I figured the easiest way to do that would just be to get on here and make a live stream. So if you've been following the channel a little bit, you notice I've been making a lot of short videos, but I haven't really released any new things in probably 2 months. So I'm trying to jump back on that and get back into the swing of things. You just kind of go through seasons is really the best way to put it. Seasons of creation, seasons of like just kind of teaching, laying low, doing some other things. So it's been a minute, but hopefully I will have some more content for you soon. I had someone request a good song. They weren't a Patreon member, but I still might end up doing that. Hopefully I'll be posting that sometime next week. And yeah, so let's see what your questions are. Do you find it easier, nicer, better to slap with rubber or steel? Okay, so the rubber strings don't get as much attack when you slap them, so you have to like EQ it really specifically to get the attack to come out audibly. So I really do prefer the probably the round wounds are the best strings for slap. The flat wounds are okay, but the flat wounds, they don't have as much brightness to them, and I feel like that brightness gets a little bit more of the attack. So it has a very specific slap sound, and I feel like the round wounds are the best for it. But the flat wounds are okay as well. Okay, so someone else says they're very new. Sorting out posture and strap. Well, don't go off of me leaning forward to read comments, please. Let's see. Comfortable sitting down but standing up today. Cannot even see the frets. Okay. So one thing is really from the angle that I'm at, even sitting down, I'm not really looking down at the frets. There are a lot of reasons you might have trouble seeing them standing up, but one question is, how do you have the strap set? So like for me right now, with my leg crossed over the other leg, which that's just my most comfortable thing to do. The base basically sits on my leg, or if I had the leg down, it just hovers there. So when I stand up, my position doesn't really change. So that's one thing. So setting your strap height to where it doesn't change too much from seated to standing is probably a good measure that you can do. And then aside from that, just you're saying you're having trouble seeing the frets. Okay. So another thing is getting used to the feel of things, whether you're sitting down or standing up, where you're not having to stare at the frets all the time. Like it's okay to occasionally look down, but really, if I'm sitting with proper posture right now, I can't really see the strings either. All I can see is the E string here. So I can see the frets, and I can see where my fingers are, but I have to more feel for the strings, if that makes sense. So it may just be good to kind of play through some warm-up exercises to get used to the feel of the strings. So doing like one finger per fret, like that kind of thing. Oh, the strap came off. So so that's kind of one suggestion I have for you as far as posture stuff goes. The other thing is making sure you're not holding the U bass down too much, kind of having it at an angle like I do, where it's like kind of up more on the fret hand and down more on the plucking hand. So hopefully that helps a little bit. Sorry, I'm waiting for the pass bell. Are they coming up? Yeah, they're loud over there. So that's one thing I would do is just try to get familiar with not having to look at the frets so much down there, because you can tell what fret you're on from the top. If you have the little dots, just getting used to, you have the 3rd fret, 5th fret, 7th fret, 9th fret, and 12th fret. So just kind of knowing that helps, and then other than that, you can count them if you want to. But yeah, if you're kind of leaning in and looking over, it's okay to do that, but it's not a great habit to get into, because if you're playing for a long time, that can kind of, I mean, between being hunched over and everything else, it just might kind of get in your way a little bit. That's a great question, though. All right, so I think I'm just going to play an original song for a minute. Might turn the amp up a tiny bit, hoping it won't overdrive if I do that, but let's just bump it up a tiny bit. Okay. So I'm just going to play an original for a second. This is one I pretty much play every live stream that I've ever done, but it's called Green Tea. Oh, hey Russell, how's it going? Thanks for tuning in. I was trying to figure out how I did the percussive part. Maybe I was sitting different. Oh, I did the open string. That's why it's not right. So I get for trying to read the comments. So I see there's a couple more questions here. One from Steve and one from Linda. So let's see. One more. I find when amplified D and G strings are much hotter than the E and the A, normal due to smaller mass of those strings, or do I have a pickup problem? Okay, so I'm not sure which pickup design you have, but if it's like this one, then that's a common issue, that one of the strings will be either really quiet or really loud. So sorry, I'm still reading comments and letting them distract me. I'll get to that comment in a minute. So basically, this piece, the saddle, this little like kind of cream colored piece on mine, it's a solid piece, but it has little like indentions in between each string. So because it's a solid piece and the bottom part of it is actually relatively thick, those indentions don't do a whole lot. So some of the strings will be pushing down harder than other strings. So you have a difference in pressure. So I made a video of like one example of how to fix it, which I would kind of like, it's kind of like the last resort, but it's the way that works the best. Basically, you cut those. So you take the pickup out, you take the little end pieces off, and you can kind of cut the pickup into either 4 separate pieces or just cut them. I think the best option would be just cut them very close to that bottom part, so it's just thinner, and then that way you'll have more pressure from the string, the strings that are having trouble to pushing down when it's all one piece, if that makes sense. So I separated mine on this bass. This is the one I did that to in the video, into actually 4 separate pieces. If I were to loosen the strings, I could take one of these 4 pieces out. But other people have kind of suggested not cutting all the way through like that, but just cutting almost through the saddle. And if you take it apart, you'll see what I mean. And then that way, each string can push down a little bit better over its over the actual pickup. So it's actually what it's actually pushing down on, because it's a pressure-based pickup. So that's one option. Another option is, because it's about how hard the strings are pushing down on there, sometimes it helps to just, if there's any slack here, just pulling a little bit of the slack and setting the string back down again will sometimes put a little bit more pressure this way on the saddle. So I would do that first, where you just kind of, if you have the rubber strings, the polyurethane strings, you kind of just pull that up a little bit, and then it puts more downward pressure on the pickup rather than sideways pressure. And so you may want to do that with each string, and then you could try loosening and tightening the strings differently, and then in different orders, and sometimes that changes things too. But after you do that, if it's still not a little more even, then you may want to go and perform surgery on your bass. Although I'd suggest using proper tools. There's a video that I made that a lot of people like commenting on, that it's kind of dangerous or something the way I did it. And you could get more appropriate tools for the job than I used in that video. But the idea is still the same, that you're basically cutting the saddle either into 4 pieces or almost to where they're separate pieces, so that you get more pressure from each string actually on their related piece, if that makes any sense. Okay. So sorry for like the long-winded way of saying it, but that's it. And then Linda says, I've been trying to play in the break of vocals Uke group versus basic song bass. Suggestions for adding texture. Okay. So playing in a group versus playing by yourself. So I'm not quite sure what you're asking there. It could mean a couple things. So you could either, if you could rephrase the question a little bit, then I'd be able to help a little bit better, I think. But based off of what I think you're saying, in a Uke group, usually you don't have to play as much stuff. Whereas when you're playing basic songs, you do. But let me try to say it this way. What I would do is with the root notes. So if they give you a sheet of music, you kind of start with the root notes of the chords that are above the words and everything. And then from there, you can decide if it's a country song, maybe it needs a root fifth kind of line. Um, if it has sort of like a island kind of vibe or something, you may, or a New Orleans kind of vibe. That's another one that kind of uses that sort of bass line. You may want to throw an arpeggio bass line on there, which is basically taking those chords that the guitar player is playing and playing the individual notes with a certain rhythm. And then aside from that, you have all sorts of walk ups and walk downs that you can add to things. So it really helps to know your scales and know what key the song is, so you know how to walk from one chord to another. So like an example of that is if you're doing like a country line, let's say you're going from a C to an F to a G. So we got a C, C, let's see, C to F, G, C. Now you wouldn't want to add all those in because that's kind of excessive to do that much walking a lot of the time. But all I'm doing there is I know I'm in the overarching key of C. All those chords fit in that one key. And so then I'm just walking up the scale to different notes or walking down. And sometimes I'm doing something that's a little more chromatic, which means most of these notes are in the C major scale, but I'm adding one extra one there because I don't want to get to this note quite as soon. So I just add another one in there that leads to it. And sometimes that works. There's certain exceptions where it does and certain times where it doesn't, if that makes sense. Okay. So hopefully that helps a little bit, but you could add walk-ups. If it's just like you by yourself and you're singing and playing, then I think maybe adding your own chords, like just emulating the chords like I was doing in my original there, might help. And so the thing there is hitting two notes at the same time, and usually it's the root of a chord and the third of a chord. So if you have a G major chord, that'd be a G note and a B note, because G, A, B, B is the third of the G major scale. It's the third note of the G major scale. So if you play the root and the third over a G major chord, it's a nice little sound. You could also play the fifth, because when a guitar player's playing, they're playing the fifth too. But when you play all those notes at once, it starts sounding a little muddy on the bass. So what I'm doing is playing the root here and then taking the third up an octave. So that'd be playing the G down here on the E string, third fret, and the B as the fourth fret on the G string. So that's what I was doing at the beginning of that song. But if you're trying to fill something out, you may have to add a little bit more to it like that, so that you have a chord underneath the singing. So if you're doing a G, C, D, you could do that same pattern for all those chords. That kind of thing. And then it's just learning what shapes work for what chords. And once you learn the shape, you don't have to think about all the individual notes anymore. It's just know where the root note is and know that it's a major chord or a minor chord. So you just figure out which shape to use. So hopefully that helps a little bit. And then Tofoa says, is it possible to play Animal Crossing main theme bass line in a walking style? You can kind of. I think that the rhythm is so syncopated, it might kind of like take away from it. So the first thing you have to know is how long you're on whatever chord you're in. So what I would do is try to figure out if there's Animal Crossing chords first. So if we can find a chord sheet, that would be the first way to do it. It looks like we have an ultimate guitar chart. So we'll just see if that works at all, if it makes any sense. It says C major 7, part 1 is C major 7, C major 7, B minor, C major 7, C major 7, B minor. So I'm trying to figure out how that actually fits with the piece. But yeah, if you had a C major 7, if these were one measure a piece, which I don't know that they are, I'd have to like think about it and listen to the music, and I don't want to get a copyright strike for pulling up the actual audio song on here. So unless I find my headphones, I do have a pair of headphones handy. Then I can see if it works. But if they're right about how long you're staying on each chord, because they're listing it 2 times in a row, let's say that each one of those is a measure. Then you just have to figure out how to make it interesting, going back and forth between a C major staying on it that long and a B minor staying on it that long, and then toward the end it changes a little bit: C major, B minor, A minor. So one, you got to see if these are even remotely correct, because sometimes ultimate guitar people just come up with stuff, so it may not even be in that key. But let me just check and see. I don't really want to use the computer I'm already live streaming with to do this. But I'm curious now. I'm curious if it's possible. Okay. Hopefully this won't cause it to crash. And hopefully I don't have it too loud for my eardrums. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know that it would be a good idea for that one. Theoretically, you could rearrange it to where it might work, but those hits kind of make the song, and you'd be kind of taking away from it, I feel like, to do that. But I don't think that chart was right at all. So it's just very, very, very strange that they decided to do that. They said capo second fret, and then you're playing in C. Yeah, I don't really know where they're coming from on that. Maybe it's a different song from Animal Crossing. Anyway, sorry to kind of like burst your bubble, but yeah, I don't think it would be a good one to try walking over. It may be possible, but it would take rearranging other things about it too, I think, to make it useful. Okay, so Aquila strings or road toad, and you're saying Thundergut versus Pahoehoe. So probably the road toad, although they'd wear out quicker. As far as trying to get like an upright kind of sound, or just as far as they were the that classic U bass sound. So I think those are kind of better in some ways. But yeah, so I would probably say Pahoehoe, even though I don't have any basses with that on there, I think those have more of that sound. But the Aquilas are great. So it just depends on what you want. The advantage to the Aquilas, they probably, at least in my experience, they stay in tune better. And they don't take quite as much time stretching. So in some ways, that's a little bit more convenient. I think the Aquila strings are more convenient. And if you're talking about the Thundergut specifically, and not the Thunder Browns and not the other ones, then I think if you're wanting that original U bass sound, then the Road Toads sound a little bit more like that. The Aquilas are more punchy, so if you want more punch and they're a little bit more brightness, then they'd actually be better for that. But it's all in what you're wanting out of the sound, really. So that's my take on that one. All right. That was it. how to play it. But y'all recognize? Do y'all know that theme? It would help if I could play that one part. Keep trying to play the wrong note. So we got that. Yeah, I don't remember the rhythm on the other part. But someone requested in a comment to do the Barney Miller theme, and they didn't really request it that way. They asked if the U-Bass can do that. So I'm thinking about doing that for the next video. So if y'all are familiar with that one, that's kind of a fun bass line to play. And I actually have a weird story. Yeah, there you go. You got it, Barney Miller. And then I actually have a weird story about that theme that's kind of cool. I played upright in a traveling 1940s kind of, it was almost like a Glenn Miller tribute. It wasn't really a tribute, but it was a lot of Glenn Miller music and a lot of just things from the 1940s and 50s and stuff like that. So yeah, so that's the Barney Miller theme. And when we were on the road playing all that other stuff, we got up to a place in Pennsylvania, and Hal Linden actually sat in with us because the guy that plays Barney Miller, he's actually a jazz player too. He likes playing clarinet, and yeah, so he came out and did this little speech that he did every time. And so while he was walking out, we'd play the Barney Miller theme, and then we ended up playing songs like Mac the Knife with him, and then what's the other? Sing Sing Sing. We played a medley that included that on it with him as well. And this was in 2019, and he was already like in his 80s. So this is just kind of cool to have him come out and he'd sit in with the band. But yeah, so the fact that I haven't done it before now on the channel is kind of strange, but it's about time. I keep wanting to do that. Sometimes, let me know if you find this kind of hard to do as well. When you're playing a piece and there's an open string in the middle of a line, do you sometimes want to play a fretted note instead? And so you accidentally play the wrong note because your left hand refuses to not do something rather than to play. That kind of happens to me sometimes. So I wonder if that's something that that you guys think about when you're just playing through something. And then, oh, another question: what kept you playing the U-Bass for years? A lot of it's this channel, you know. So I played electric bass for 20 years, somewhere around there. Maybe it's a couple years more than that now, maybe 22 years, maybe even 23. Okay, 20. We'll just say 22 for now. Over 22 years, and I played upright bass a little bit in middle school and high school. So I guess that'd be more like you could say 15 years on upright bass, and so I got into U-Bass because I have a friend that runs a ukulele website, and he wanted some bass lines to do some band arrangements, basically for some of those, and that's Rock Class 101. If you've ever checked out that YouTube channel or website, so he has rockclass101.com, and it started out as just like covering songs as a rock band. So like you take a popular song and then you do a more like rock version of it. And then he started doing ukulele arrangements, and that really took off. So he just abandoned the other idea, and we came back to doing some band arrangements after several years of doing that. So I got the first U-Bass to do some videos for him, and that one happened to be the one with the round wound strings. So I thought that was kind of cool, and I made a review video on it, and that review video did pretty well on YouTube. So it was like, oh, okay, there's a need for more videos about U-Basses on here. So I did that. The first night that I had it, I realized I could arrange songs on here. I arranged canon for some reason the first night I had it. I don't even remember how, my whole arrangement at all. now, but that was the first arrangement that I did on there. If you go back to the channel, you can kind of see where it was, and I posted it a day or two later, and that one got a decent amount of views, and I realized that I would post the same things I'd be playing on the bass, and more people would be interested in it just because of the instrument. So it was like, okay, so I can do the same thing I've been doing, and then it was kind of cool. And then it just sort of turned into a community over time. And I think there are a lot of people that don't know that bass tabs and U bass tabs would be the same. Like, if you want to play a part, just you can look up the bass tabs and that'll translate directly to the U bass. Um, so because people didn't know that, or because they just like learning it from a U bass player, because there are some things you can do differently. Like for instance, on electric bass, I might use this range a little bit more, but I might like the tone better on the U bass if I'm playing these notes down here. So there are just certain things that you do differently based on that. But there were a lot of people that had questions, a lot of people that wanted to learn songs, and a lot of people that had requests. And then there's just the fact that when you do arrangements on here, these giant stretches are easier than they are on electric bass. So it just allows you to do some things that maybe would be too hard to do on a full scale bass. So that's really the reason that I keep playing it. And also, recently I started riding a motorcycle, and I can carry this on my back. So one thing I did, and I actually have a student in here that got taught one of these lessons. I went from Atlanta to Jackson, Mississippi to visit some relatives, and I brought my stuff to teach lessons with me, and that was like a backpack on my back. I think I had the laptop in there, and then I had the U bass strapped sideways, so kind of like it is here, but on my back. Um, so it was almost like wings coming out, and I had it kind of looped through the backpack straps so that it would do that rather than being vertical. And I just couldn't do that with the full scale electric bass, and obviously with the upright bass, I couldn't travel like that. So it's just really the portability, the fact that there was a need for a community around it. Some things are easier to play when you take it out to places. You don't have to, like the other day, there was a gig that somebody normally had an upright bass player for, and I just decided to bring the U bass just for the heck of it, not really for any reason. I could have brought the upright bass, and they were really happy with it, and people thought it was really cool, and it was easier on your hands by the end of the night. So there are really a ton of reasons why I stuck with U bass and kept playing it, but a big reason is probably this YouTube channel. So I've kind of built a community up from it, just from answering questions and doing things. So yeah, yeah, you based on a motorcycle. So I wasn't smart enough to take a picture of how I had it set up. And I don't know if that's something y'all are interested in seeing. I could probably just get the backpack and strap the, well, that would take too long. But basically all I did was I undid the straps on one of the U-base cases, which none of them are handy right now. This is way over there. I'll just grab that and just show you that part of it. Oh, it may have a U-base in it, but I brought this one that I'm holding with me, not that. Oh, it has a ukulele in it. I was wondering where that went. I hid it from myself. But basically, no pun intended, you just take the straps and just loosen them until they're open like that, and then wrap it around the backpack and loop it back under. I kind of don't recommend this if y'all ride a motorcycle, just because of the safety factor. When it sticks out like wings on the side, it blocks your mirrors. And then Boldo says, is Ubase still relatively popular? I'd say yes. People still watch the videos that I do post regularly. A lot of people still have questions on videos from 5 years ago, even. And and it seems like there are new subscribers still subscribing to the channel at a rate of about between 80 and 100 a month. So yes, it's not like a huge, it's not the biggest number of people in the world, but there's still a lot of people playing ukulele, and a lot of those groups that have ukulele players need a bass player, and it makes the most sense to still play U-bass with them. So I'd say it's relatively popular, and then just the convenience factor. Um, so sometimes people that play upright bass will use a U bass instead because it gets it's not it, I'm not going to say it sounds the same because I think a lot of people are like, wow, it sounds just like an upright bass. It doesn't. There's a lot of things that you are missing from the sound, but the pickup is a similar is it works in a similar manner as some of the upright bass pickups. So when you use that kind of pickup on an upright versus on a U bass, they don't sound too far apart on the pickup. And I did a couple of comparisons, and if you close your eyes and listen to it, just based on the pickup on the upright bass and the pickup on here, I think you'd find that they're incredibly similar. So I like that aspect of it, but it's also just creates like a conversation piece. But the other reason I think it's still pretty popular is just the ease of playing. So if you're playing the polyurethane strings rather than the metal strings, it's so much easier to push down. On either one, your fingers don't have to stretch as far. So there are a lot of people that used to play upright bass that just can't anymore because of arthritis and carpal tunnel and things like that, but they can still play a U bass. So I think it'll remain popular for that reason, and the portability, obviously. So it's super portable. But that a good way to kind of segue out of that though, they're making a lot of just small bases. So Kala and Flight have made one. They're still calling it a U bass, but to me, it isn't really a bass ukulele. It's a little bit longer, just like maybe 2 or 3 inches. The scale length is 2 or 3 inches longer, and it looks a lot more like a bass guitar. But thinking about getting because they make a fretless one. I'm thinking about getting a fretless one at some point, and and those aren't really bass ukuleles at that point. They're just like a miniature bass, but the strings might still be made differently. I'm not sure. They felt pretty stiff, so they felt like they did have a metal core, not a nylon core, and they had a magnetic pickup. To me, the thing that makes the U bass sound like a U bass and not just like a bass guitar is having the or a bass ukulele, I should say. It's not just the Kala brand, but all of the bass ukuleles instead of bass guitars. Is the type of pickup. So using that piezo pickup that picks up the vibration directly through through the plastic, through whatever material is pushing down on the pickup, rather than a magnetic pickup that's picking it up through the air. You just get that sound. So yeah, I think U-Bass is still pretty popular. It still has a pretty unique sound that's versatile, and the miniature basses are just good for travel. It's really like they're not so that new Kala bass to me is just a miniature bass. So it's just fun. It's easy to throw around or whatever if you want to get something like that. That's a solid body that has a magnetic pickup. It's really at that point just a replacement for a bass guitar for maybe travel purposes or just ease, you know, maybe still the ease of stretching is part of it. But the U bass is its own sound, and it's more like you'd get a U bass with polyurethane strings if you're trying to imitate an upright, and you'd get a little bit if you're trying to get more of that kind of sound, or even somewhere between that and the Motown sound, really, because they muted the Motown bass players used muted flat wounds, meaning they had flat wounds on their bass and they had like a sponge mute underneath the strings. So the polyurethane strings kind of come somewhere in between those two because they sound muted because of the material. So, like for instance, if I wanted this bass to sound more like an upright bass, not saying it'll sound like one, but more like one, with the round wound strings on it, I'd mute with my palm back here and play with my thumb. And then that might fit in the mix. Maybe isolated, it doesn't sound much more like an upright bass, but in the mix, when you're playing with a band or playing somewhere else, it doesn't stand out in the way the bright electric strings do. So that's just kind of something to keep in mind. But I think that's why they'll stay relevant. Why the U-bass will stay relevant is because it's the thing that comes closest to having an upright vibe in the smallest package. So people are happy with it, and people get a kick out of it. And people that can't play upright bass anymore can still play that. So it kind of serves a purpose. So yeah, I'd say it's still relatively popular, and I think it'll continue to stay relevant for those reasons. But the other thing that kept me into U-bass is all the different string types. So if they didn't make the flat wounds, I may have gotten a little bored with the round wounds, and may have gotten a little bit tired of the stickiness of the rubber strings, the polyurethane strings. So the fact that there's kind of a community and so many different options on the strings, and that kind of makes it cool too. Okay, I think I tried to do this earlier, and do you want me to do it on the flat wound strings, or should I go find the one with the polyurethane strings? My fingers were a little bit slower just because the weather today, so I may have to do like a slower version of it or something. And I don't know if I'd play the whole thing, like the part of it, Oh, yeah, my hands are too slow. I'd have to play it slower than that. It's been a while. That's the real thing. I don't practice it regularly, so I'll try it one more time. Yeah, it's been too long. Oh well. I tried. The other thing about doing it on U-bass versus doing electric, when I'm playing on electric bass, I kind of learned it ironically with more of the upright frame of mind because of the bass teacher that I had. So when I play this part, I start with my middle finger and then go to my pinky. Like an upright player, we're using one. If you're going one fret above, you use two fingers. So on here, I had to like go back to using just these three fingers instead of using these two as one, and because they just won't fit in a small fret like that. So yeah, it's just a little bit harder. I'm gonna give it one more go and see if my brain will carry me through a little bit better. I can't remember. There's something about being on a smaller bass. I just can't remember the note. I go off a muscle memory on that song. So if I'm off a little bit on the notes, there's no jumping back on. I'll just play the little last part, maybe. Nope, can't even do that. No. Well, that's kind of embarrassing that I can't dust off the cobwebs on that one. That's one I used to play all the time. But yeah, I'll probably hit the shed on that one and go over it again. But great request. Normally I'd like to think that I'd be able to play it because I've played it on here before. Any other questions or requests that you guys have? Let me know. Okay. That's what it was. Yeah, my brain's just not. Sometimes you think muscle memory will carry you through something that it just doesn't. That's because I'm doing that part in the wrong spot. My brain is like, it's like I'm 1 fret off or 2 frets off on some of the parts and not on the other parts. So I'll have to let that one go. But if you have another request, let me know. Okay, so Steve has a question. First time watching you live. Quick question. Did you have a preference between the new Kala solid body and the Flight mini bass? Looking for new instrument. Okay, so the Flight's is a very pretty instrument. It plays pretty well. I have a strong preference with the Kala one, and I'm not saying that just because I play their other instruments. I just thought the build quality felt a little bit better, and there was some different thing about the strings on the Flight. They started sounding like kind of hollow, if that makes any sense, in a certain range. And both of them had this issue, so it may just be a short scale bass thing. But and they're very similar instruments. I think the Kala one was in direct response to Flight having one that size. I could be wrong. It could be that they both existed around the same time, but they're suspiciously similar with the scale length and some other things about them. So if it were me, I'd go for the Kala. It may not have that like crazy ornate design that the Flight does, and to me, that Flight was the best thing by that company I've ever played. So I haven't played a lot of Flight instruments, but I know I just think of them as the cheap ukulele company, and the quality surprised me. I was really impressed with that bass. So I don't think it's going to be bad for you if you get the Flight one. I just feel like there's a little more. Uh, it just the Kala one feels a little bit more durable. It just feels like attention to detail. I mean, really on both of them, attention to detail was good, but the real thing was the strings, that like metallic sound. On the Kala, it didn't affect the G string at all. It didn't affect the D string much either, and I think it did on the Flight once you were past like maybe the 14th fret or something. And both of them have more frets than the U bass, which is kind of nice. But on the Kala, I think it was just up on the E and the A string that it started having that weird hollow metallic sound. I don't know how to describe it other than that. But the Flight seemed to have it on maybe all the strings just a little bit when you got up high enough. I'm going off of memory, so I may be wrong about that. Watching the review video would probably be better than just hearing me say that. But if it were me, if I were to purchase one, it would be the Kala one. Just slightly better feel to it or something, and then that sound issue. But both are great. I thought the Flight one was fun. 10% coupon. Oh yeah, that's cool. The 10% off coupon. I need to know about that. Um, yeah, the other thing is I think they made a fretless version of the Kala one now, and I'm really interested in that because that will look like a mini Jocko bass, and that sounds exciting to me. So if you can't tell from what I was playing a minute ago, I'm a Jaco Pastorius fan. So to have a little tiny bass that looks like his jazz bass sounds fun. So I think I would enjoy having that, and I'd probably get a lot of use out of it. Even though for teaching purposes, maybe having a fretless isn't always the best thing, but it would be fun. I'd get that and have fun with it. The only downside to having the fretless with it is they only have the round wound strings for it, as far as I know. I think I heard somebody say that there might be something that fits it, but they need to have it needs to be a metal core for those basses. I think they're not designed to take the kind of strings that the E bass does, and the magnetic pickup will probably pick it up better the more metal that's in it. So in the string. So yeah, to me the Kala one is what I would go with. But the flight one looks really cool and it plays surprisingly well for flight. I was very impressed with it. But but the Kala one, I don't know, just there's something about it. I think the Kala ones might be heavier. They might both be heavy. I may just not be remembering the flight one as well. But something about that just makes it feel more sturdy. And yeah, so to me, I like the sturdiness of it as well. But both of them are take a little more effort to play because they are steel core strings, as far as I know. So it just takes a little more effort to push down those strings. It's bugging me that I'm having this much trouble playing Donnelly. I almost want to try it again. I'm just trying to figure out which part of it's throwing me off. Mm-mm. This is all. This. There it is. That's not right. That's the part I can't remember for some reason. It's like my favorite part. It's like 89% there now. Oh, I'm losing people. I think y'all are leaving because it's not really that exciting to watch someone try to like figure something out. But I basically got it now. So I could do like a medium speed version of it and get it 80% right. I'll do it one more time. And then while I'm doing that, go ahead and put something else in the comments and I'll try to play that too. Ugh. My fingers just aren't working today. This is why you stay in practice. You keep practicing things. If you only practice easier things or only play full scale bass or only do this, that, and the other, you lose some of the things. There it is. So 80 to 90% there. But do you guys have any other questions or any other requests? I'll stop trying to redo Donna Lee for now. This is going to take a little more work on my part. So I'm gonna ask y'all a question real quick. Which strings are your favorite and why? So just curious for a little bit of feedback on that. Have you tried a lot of different ones? Do you prefer the polyurethane strings or the metal strings? And of the metal, do you prefer the round wound or the flat wound? Have you gotten a chance to try any of those? All right. So any requests for anything? Doesn't look like too many people said anything about the strings, but yeah, I want to thank you guys all for hanging out here. So just let me know if there's a request for like a bass line or something. Normally I can play a lot of them, not all of them, but just let me know if there's something you want to hear, or if you just have a question about a particular bass line or a particular bass ukulele or string types or anything else. When shopping U-bass, I tried the Aquila Silver Rumblers, okay, and a flat wound. Chose the Aquilas for the acoustic sound. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. So you said, but the metals were tempting. Yeah, it depends on what you want. The advantage that I have is I have multiple U basses, so I have different string types just available without having to do all the work of replacing the strings each time that I want to play. And it's nice having one of each for me. But that's a great assessment of it. And I haven't tried the silver rumblers yet, so I'm curious about how they compare to the Kala ones. Although the Kala silver plated round wounds are probably very similar, and those I have on a different bass. I have them on my exotic mahogany bass ukulele or U bass, and those kind of lasted for a very long time because I had that bass for over 5 years now, and I still have the same strings on them. They look a little worn. They have marks at every fret, and different things, but they still sound pretty good to me. They're not completely dead after 5 years of playing them, and you can see that I play them a decent amount when you look at all the videos I've made with them. All right, so Tofoa says, when you use, what do you use to keep your rubber strings conditioned? I don't really do anything to them. So I found with the Thunder Guts that they just last. They just last for a few years without really needing to do much to them. It may be different in different climates. So down here, I don't really have to do much at all to them, and that's you know they're probably better things that you can do to keep them good. But I really haven't done much of that and haven't had too much issue. But yeah, climate could probably affect them, and if you sweat a lot or something, maybe that would make a difference. But I haven't really had any issues with them for multiple years, so they work pretty well. Okay, so Steve says they came on the U-Bass Rumbler, so I guess they stopped putting the Kala ones on there and started putting the Aquila ones on there. But for me, the silver plated round wounds came on my exotic mahogany bass. Yeah, very cool. So I didn't know that about the. Oh, the silver rumblers aren't metal, are they? Never mind. I'm thinking about a different string. The silver rumblers are just like a polyurethane string, right? Yeah. There we go. I was picturing the wrong ones, but I think I've played on a couple of U-basses at music stores that have those. And if I remember correctly, they were maybe a step above the Thunder Guts. Like you could tell that they were a little different. Um, I still have yet to try the Thunder Reds. Hopefully one day I will, or the Thunder Browns. I've heard that those have less string noise, which is kind of nice. And that was the other thing that was good about the Road Toad ones. When someone was asking before, the Pahoehoe strings, those have a little bit less string noise, and that's why I say they're less punchy too. They don't have as much mids to them. They have a little more low end, or maybe not more, but they're not as bright of a string, if that makes sense. The tone is not quite as bright. That sounded like a song. Oh well. Right. That was one note I was leaving out, but yeah. Okay, so Steve says, I took a bass class at a festival recently. He wore a glove to cut the string noise. Yeah. So some people will do different things. This the way that the thing that I found that cuts the string noise the most is having the flat wounds because they're smooth. They aren't sticky, like the rubber strings are. And to me, that's the best way to reduce string noise. And yeah, the round wounds are pretty noisy for sure. The flat wounds help with that, but like I said, the round wounds are better for slap. The flat wounds are better for less string noise and having like a tone that's in between rubber and round wound. So these are the perfect balance for me, unless I want to do some slap bass. Although it's okay on here. There's just a slightly better slap tone on the round wounds, in my opinion. And also harmonics. While I can get them out of here, they're a little bit better on the round wounds. Can you do a walking jazz line improvised to, I think you're saying improvise, to the Beatles' Octopus's Garden? I'd have to listen to it to be able to do that. But you could rewrite any song to have a walking line. The question is, could you do it with the recording? I don't know. So I don't remember what the bass does on Octopus's Garden at all. So let's see what happens here. I'm just gonna listen to it. I've never thought about the bass part on there at all. Yes, I mean, okay, it's a more familiar progression than I was thinking it was. You probably could. Yeah, I mean, it's it's a 1 6 4 5 thing going on. So it's like could do that kind of thing. It doesn't sound super jazzy because the progression is more of a pop progression. But yeah, you could do a walking line on there. So. Right. And so I'm just doing the verse pattern. I'm not doing the chorus there. But yeah, you could totally do that kind of line on it. So things that sound more jazzy and that are more kind of that work better with the walking lines are when they move in fourths. So like the chords, instead of being like 1 to 6 to 4 to 5, it's moving from this note down a third to get to this 1 7 6, right? Or 8 7 6. I say 8 7 6 to go backwards, but 8's the same as 1. And then you're going backwards another third. So this is moving from the 6 to the 4, 6 5 4. You're moving down in thirds. So it's not super obvious to do a jazz style line, and I'm walking more within the scale rather than adding chromatic notes like I might with the jazz line. But you could do arpeggios mixed with walking up and down scales, mixed with occasionally a chromatic note here and there, like I did there. So what I was thinking here on the 1 chord, I think it's an E. So I was just doing like an arpeggio. And then after that, I started walking down the scale. Or sorry. You could do that. Yeah, so I'm not really thinking too hard about it. Sometimes I'm doing arpeggios. Sometimes I'm walking in the scale. If there aren't enough notes, I might skip over a note and come back to it like we talked about in lessons. Or I might do a chromatic note rather than doing that. But yeah, so something to do with arpeggios or scales. And it's 2 measures on each chord. So that's why I'm having to like kill time on it. So it's not like E, C sharp, A to B that quickly. It's more like E, E, so you have to like figure out how to kill time on this, which is something that's mildly challenging on keeping a walking line kind of fresh while doing that. So hopefully that answers your question. But yeah, it's about time for me to wrap this up. So if you have any other questions, go ahead and type them in right now. I'm going to play one more song, although I'm not sure what song I'll play right now. And yeah, thank you all for tuning in, and I will see you guys next time. But feel free to throw a question in there, and I'll play something for you. I'm trying to think of what have I not played. thank y'all for hanging out. I will see you next time. Let me know if there's anything you'd like to see in the next stream. You can let me know in the comments on this video. And hopefully I'll have the Barney Miller theme for you guys next week. And I'm going to try to keep doing a short series. So what I've been doing is taking old videos that are kind of hard for people to find at this point. And there was a series that I did that was 5 bass lines in 5 minutes. And now that they have short videos, I'm cutting them into 5 separate pieces. So this way it'll just kind of hopefully notify some people when I release those, so that you don't have to hunt through and dig through to find some of those older videos. It kind of brings them back up to the top, and then they're all separate little pieces, which is kind of cool. So I'm gonna try to do some of those and try to get that Barney Miller theme up next week. So thank y'all for hanging out, and have a good one. Cheers.